Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Wendy Dillard here. Today is Tuesday, December the 12th, 2017. This is our 4 p.m. podcast, and we want to welcome you all to your daily dose of happy. Wendy, we were talking before the show about exciting things going on, and particularly with what's happening with the show, and I don't know if we can convey to the audience how exciting it is, but I mean, this is just beginning to work.
Totally. It's like it really is the momentum, and I know I keep saying it, but that's what I feel. There's a momentum behind it, and as I was sharing with you just a few moments ago, I felt like yesterday, after the show, there was something inside my heart that just landed, and I'm like, yes, I'm in the right place, doing the right thing with the right person, and presenting it to the right audience, and it feels great.
I was just going to say, doesn't that feel wonderful when you actually hit it like that and you know you've hit it? You know you found the thing you were looking for? Oh.
I mean, I knew when I said yes to you that it was a yes.
Sure.
But then there was all my personal stuff, like how am I going to sound, and, do I really have time to do this, and just all the personal internal chit-chat.
Oh, yeah.
And yesterday that was gone. It's like the conversation we had on the air was just so fun, and it was flowing, and it was going in so many different directions that I know you and I had never planned for.
Not at all.
But
no.
I felt like what we talked about was really poignant.
It was.
It was very profound. It really is a message that is important to convey, and I felt like I got to be a part of conveying this important message, and I felt like I had something valuable to share, you had something valuable to share, and the show had something valuable to offer to our listeners. And, that just put me over the edge in terms of all the personal blah, blah, blah.
Well, it's funny.
This is where I belong.
I'm glad that you belong here. I think this is where you belong, too. I think it's really interesting how yesterday was so free-flowing. I mean, it was truly a creative experience. And I don't think either one of us really knew where it was going to go, but we were able to go with it. And that's part of what made it work so well, I think.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So
who knows where today will go, but I have an anticipation of it going in a place that will also feel just as good.
Okay, well, I'm up for that. We do have a topic. Of course, that didn't turn out to be what we thought it was going to be yesterday. But hey, let's start with a topic because it's a good thing to do. Today's topic is the season of giving, because that's what this is. We're in the holidays, and it's well known as being the season of giving. It also presents some unique opportunities for discussion, I think, and in terms of how do we approach the whole idea of giving from a law of attraction perspective? Because one of the things that the law of attraction has taught me is that so much of what I previously believed was true about interpersonal relationships and the way humans interact with each other was invalid and was actually not the way things really work. Learning that we are all, I think I already knew that we are all individually responsible for our own behaviors. I didn't realize that included our own emotions, and that was a big shift for me. So how then do we look at the season of giving from the law of attraction perspective? That's what I thought would be an interesting topic.
Well, now you've got me curious about what did that mean for you when you were talking about shifting the emotional piece? What does that mean?
Oh, wow. The emotional piece is that I now understand that I am, first of all, able to move my own emotional set point, something that I previously didn't realize I could do. In fact, I didn't think anybody could do it. I really believed that we were all kind of ships at sea floating on the water, and whatever the waves decide to do, that's what happened to us. And we were pretty much the victims of fate, so to speak, which is interesting because I didn't really believe in fate. Somehow I knew that concept was wrong. But even with that, I said to myself, this whole thing about feeling and having control of your feelings was very different from what I had previously believed. It was a major shift for me. So for me, the emotional component is the knowledge and the understanding and learning that I can have control and influence over my own emotional state. Does that explain it?
Yeah, and actually our line dropped a couple times, so I might have missed a few key words. But when you say you're in control of your own emotional state,
Meaning,
like, what do you do to control it?
well, meaning that if at any particular point in time, usually for me, it's if I'm not feeling good, I want to feel good. So at any particular time, if I'm not feeling good, I now understand there are things that I can do to change my mood and get myself from a negative zone into a positive zone and start feeling good.
Okay, so you start with being aware you're not in an emotional state you want to be in, and now you recognize you have choice. You don't have to just stay there.
Right. And both of those were advances because most of the time I wasn't aware of my own emotional state. And even if I was, I didn't think I could do anything about it.
Got it. Oh, boy, that is such a liberating place to be.
Yes.
So since we're talking about the spirit of giving, I'll just use the word gift here. What a gift you gave to yourself
Yeah.
in the awareness that you have choice over your emotional state.
And I am very appreciative to the law of attraction teachers out there, the Abraham Hickses of the world, the secrets and all that, because the stuff that they gave me was enough for me to work with that I could finally get through to that conclusion, the one we just talked about. And, so it was a gift to myself, but it was a gift from them. So thank you to all of them. Now, how about you? Where does giving fit into your personal place and personal development?
Well, it's a good question, and it's so rare that I draw a blank. So I'm going to have to really think on this. But I like to say that all questions are how I'm triggered into like greater epiphanies. So I'm up for this challenge. So
Okay.
how does gifts? What does that have to do with me and law of attraction?
Well, you raised a good question before we began the show, which is what does it mean to give? What is giving all about? Did you have an idea about that?
I could probably take it from that perspective better. Thank you for feeding that back to me.
Yeah.
I think about gifts not in terms of physical things, but in terms of what contributes to another person's well-being.
Okay.
Sometimes just an act of kindness is me, like if I show an act of kindness to somebody, they drop something on the floor and I can tell they're struggling to pick it up and I pick it up for them. My act of kindness, that's a contribution, that's a gift to me.
Mm-hmm.
Something that this happened when I was a costume designer. I was doing a Christmas passion play, and there was one of the people from the church who was playing this part, and I had to dress her because it was a very complicated costume and you couldn't put it on yourself. So I was helping lace it up and do all this stuff. And so in the time we were doing this passion play over the course of a couple weeks, I got to know her really well. And I knew she was the kind of person we would probably never be friends outside of this experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I know we made a real heart connection. And so on the last night of the show, many of the people, who were involved in the play were giving people like me who are on staff, gifts, and it was very, very thoughtful, and I was very appreciative. And so I'm backstage with this gal, and I'm dressing her for the last time, and she says to me, she goes, "I know you're receiving a lot of gifts from other people in the play, and I just want you to know I don't do that." And I said, "Okay." But I thought it interesting that she wanted to tell me that.
Yeah.
And then she went on to say, "I believe I am your gift."
Ooh.
Just me being me with. And not only have I never heard that from another living soul, but I totally understood her and received it in the moment she was giving me that.
What did it mean
And I
to you?
said to her, first of all, I said that is one of the most precious gifts I ever received, because what it meant to me, she was giving who she is in the pureness of herself, holding nothing back, just simply enjoying the time we had together in a space of love and gratitude and appreciation. And sometimes we laughed, sometimes we shared deep stories of our life experience. But I understood because we had this beautiful heart connection that I felt. It was palatable to me. But she put it into words by saying, "I'm giving you the gift of myself." And I thought, that was probably, I don't know, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know that that's a gift that I still remember?
That's significant all by itself.
It's such a beautiful gift. And we're Facebook friends. I don't think we've ever once actually communicated with each other on there. We just see each other's posts.
Right.
But every time I see her come up on Facebook, I remember her telling me she gave me the gift of herself that day.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, wow. And I honestly think that is the kind of gift that I have been giving most of my life, but I've never thought that people would be able to receive it if I said it. So I kind of didn't. But yet, when she said it, it was just an incredibly beautiful acknowledgement of what I was feeling with her, but now I had words that went with it.
Yeah.
So that, to me, was a Christmas gift that was beyond probably any Christmas gift I can recall.
Sure.
And it's, as far as, like, importance, and it's one I keep remembering, and yet there was nothing about it that was tangible. I don't have a tchotchke to go on one of my shelves to remember her by. I just remember her.
To borrow the old cliche, it's the gift that has kept on giving.
It truly has.
Yeah, it really has. And it's made an impact, apparently. The fact that you keep remembering it shows.
Presence, or by phone, or in the radio show that we're doing here, my hope is that I'm giving the gift of me, and that you can make a heart connection with me, because that's what I desire to give.
That's very cool. You mentioned earlier, too, the idea of I think you called them the random acts of kindness, which, just doing little things for people and so forth. And I would even expand that to say every time that I smile at somebody, greet them as we're passing on a bike path, or, nod hello in a store, those are all little gifts. Every time that I acknowledge another human being is a gift. And every time a human being acknowledges me is a gift. So gift giving isn't just limited to the season, it's throughout the year.
Yeah.
Which is also pretty cool.
Well, and I feel a quietness in my soul right now as I'm just kind of taking in just the sweetness of the conversation we're having, because we're not talking about, what department store do you go to shop to buy gifts for your family and friends.
Right.
We're talking about gifts that are on such a deep level that truly make a difference for another human being. Like, you've told the story of Joel, your other co-host, and how he's adopted this young boy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's a gift. I mean, Joel gave literally his life to support this child, both physically, financially, with a home, with love and compassion and all the things that go with it. It's like, wow, now there's a big gift.
Yeah. And this is the second time around, too.
You don't get it at Bloomingdale's, and you don't put a bow on it.
And this is the second time around, too, because he actually raised two other boys that he adopted to adulthood. And now he's doing it again. So he had so much fun the first time, he wants to do it again. He's doing it a second time.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that makes me think how much the gift is for both the receiver and the giver.
Mm-hmm.
Because if Joel's doing it for the third time, it must have felt good enough to give the 2 times before that he wants to give that gift again, because he gets to receive as well as be the giver. It's a win-win, win-win.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's actually the 4th time because there's another boy involved too. So it's ultimately going to be 4 adoptions, I think, before all is said and done. On top of that, he has, I don't know what the current number is. The last I asked him about this was maybe a year and a half ago. And at that point, he told me he had helped somewhere around 45 to 50 young boys and young girls find forever homes. These are kids who were orphaned, who were in the system, or who had been taken away from their parents. And he had told me many times about how horrible the statistics are for kids like that. I mean, literally, if you are not adopted sometime during your time as a ward of the state, the odds of you having a healthy life are almost zero. And this is a guy who has gone out of his way to help countless, I'll just say, I won't put a number to it, countless young people either find their families, or if they've gone through the system and now they're adults, he has helped them to even in those cases where they're now adults, has helped them to find a way to have a happy life starting from that point on, which is probably the biggest victory of all because they're the hardest ones to have a happy life. I mean, amazing what this man has done in his lifetime.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're connected to him, and I'm connected to you.
Yep.
So it really is the...
And our listeners, of course, are connected to us, which is why we also want to encourage them to call in and participate if you'd like. I mean, we know that for the most part, people are listening to this as a podcast after the fact. But if you happen to be listening, it's Tuesday at currently 4:15 Eastern Time, and you want to participate, give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. And we'd like to hear what your view is on the giving in the season of giving. The phone number here, 860-264-5432. That's 860-264-5432. So just had to get that one in there, Wendy.
Awesome. Yep. I've been doing it the last couple of days, but you beat me to it today.
Well, it was my turn, It was my turn. I had to do the giving today.
Well, that's great. Well, I had a conversation with someone earlier today, and she goes, so, what are you doing for Christmas? And she told me what she was doing. And I said, I really, on the surface, kind of sound like I'm anti-Christmas, which I'm kind of not pro-holiday, only because holidays don't take on a special meaning to me, because like you had kind of made a comment before, I think of every day as special. And you can make any day you want special. Mm-hmm. And so, in my family, we really don't have any little children anymore. Even my youngest niece is 16. And so really our time together is, I consider the gift of them, because they're all over Texas, and they all come into one location, whether it's my house or my sister's or wherever. We still haven't decided for this year. But it's like just being together.
Yes.
To me, that is Christmas. That is the holiday, when the whole family's together. And it doesn't even mean we're all in one space, because, there's this little group doing this and this little group doing that. And we all find our fun in different places and in different, conversations. But I really think of the whole holiday as a time to be with family, or a time to be with friends, because in my case, our family can never manage to actually convene on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. So we always look to which day of the week or weekend is going to work best for everybody's schedule.
Okay.
So then that usually leaves me free on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and that's a day that I spend with friends that they're not with their families either. And it's not like, oh, wow, we have no one to hang out with. It's like, oh, yippee, we get to choose to be with each other.
Yeah.
And we find restaurants that are open on holidays. And, I'll tell you something from last year. On Christmas Day, we had a local restaurant that was open, and I think they opened at like 3 o'clock or something. And we were the first ones there, like literally nobody in the parking lot. And this was my gift to them. I'm like, if they chose to be open on Christmas Day so that me and my friend could go and enjoy a meal together, I want to give them the gift of packing the house. And so I parked dead center in the parking lot right in front of the front door with the intention, let my car be a beacon to all those who are looking for a restaurant on Christmas Day, so that this restaurant will get packed out. Mm-hmm. I got to tell you, by the time me and my girlfriend left, that restaurant was so loud we could barely hear ourselves talk. It was so packed out.
That's fantastic.
So there's another little something of how, I can set intention. I'm really powerful at it. So that's something I know I can do. And so that was kind of my thank you gift to the restaurant that was open for me and my girlfriend.
That is really nice. Yeah. And you can do that not just in holiday time. You can do that anytime. Louise and I like to do that a lot. But that's a fun activity. Something else occurs to me too. There are a lot of people who have a difficult time during the holidays. One of the major times of the year for depression cases is the holiday season. Therapists do a what do they call it, a land office business. They get a lot of people in because there's a lot of depression. So I'm not quite sure how we want to go at this, but I just feel like we should address that because I think that's something that the whole law of attraction philosophy can really directly address. I don't know about you, but to me it's about if you're in a place where you're feeling depressed because of whatever reason, it doesn't really matter what the reason is, and it's the holiday season, you have a golden opportunity to decide whether you're going to stay there, stay in that space, or are you going to decide this is an opportunity for me to find where my joy is going to be in the holiday season. Even if I'm not where I want to be, even if I don't have the loved one around that I had in mind, even if things aren't quite working the way I want to, it's still a great opportunity to try to find where is the good stuff and turn it into a happy holiday season. Now, what do you think? Am I pushing the envelope here too much?
No. As a matter of fact, it makes me think, based on the story I just told about how my family celebrates Christmas but not on Christmas, many years ago, when that first started to occur, and I was, quote, alone on Christmas, I did feel really sad. You know, I just kept thinking, I would look out my apartment window, and I would see people walking in from the parking lot into, other apartments with big boxes and packages and bows and, holiday stuff in tow, and it would make me feel very alone. Everybody else in this apartment complex is celebrating Christmas with their family and friends, and they're laughing and having good food, and I'm at home. And I'm looking in the freezer going, what is there to eat?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not like I've always felt the way I do now. There once was a time it was kind of bleak, and I felt sad. I can't say depressed. I wasn't down that low, but I was really sad and just felt like, nobody asked me, hey, well, and so there I was. Well, that was probably 20 years ago.
Right.
And I remember when the next Christmas came around, I'm like, oh, I don't want it to be as icky as it was the last Christmas for me. I don't want to feel that way. And I did start to pay attention to what I was thinking about, and I realized that the meaning that I had given to being alone on Christmas Day was one of sadness. And it was one of, it's because nobody wants to be with me and because nobody thought to welcome me into their holiday festivities. And
Right.
then the next question that came to mind is, well, who said that's true? And so over the years, I started adjusting the meaning that I gave to me spending a holiday by myself
Mm-hmm.
to, I got to tell you, today, it's like, yippee! Because, not that, I usually have a really good time with my family, but there have been a number of holiday, festivities that one member or two members of the family just kind of took it south,
Sure.
and we all went down with them, and it was not very fun, and we ended up with someone at the door as we're saying goodbye in tears because they were so unhappy. Sure, I've had those.
Yeah.
And when I was recognizing I'm by myself, or that particular family member wasn't going to attend, I was like, okay, this is a good thing. I get to choose how I feel today, and I'm not going to be influenced by anybody else's woes or negative stories or whatever. And it's like, this could be really good. There have been Christmases that I decide to clean a closet, and oh my gosh, I'm so happy when it's all done. There are times that I want to binge watch something on TV, and that's like, wow, I never get to just have a whole day that's all mine, and because the rest of the world is busy with, family holidays, they're not going to interrupt what I'm doing. And it just feels like my own quiet personal day of Wendydom. And I love it. And I say, Merry Christmas, Wendy. This day is all yours. Whatever you want it to be, you can have it.
So yet another form of giving to yourself a day.
Yeah. But I recognize that in the days, and there were many Thanksgivings and Christmases and Easters where I felt sad and I felt alone, and I recognized that was of my choosing. Now, I didn't know that at the time. It's not like I went, oh, I think I'm going to choose to be unhappy and sad today. Heavens no. I did because I didn't know anything to do different.
Right.
But But, the power of questions is so paramount in my world. When I start asking myself questions, it usually takes me to a new place, takes me to a place where I feel liberated.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, Walt, I couldn't get depressed down on the subject of the people who have a hard time with holidays. Not at all because I'm down on them. I just can't stay there very long.
No, well, I no longer want to stay there at all, but I have been there and I know how it feels, so I can at least empathize on that level, even if I don't want to be there very long.
Well, and I guess I would want to offer encouragement to anybody who might be listening to this either live or, in the future, and they're thinking about, well, good for you, Wendy, that you're all happy, whatever, because, for me it's pretty darn miserable and sad. Well, that's okay. You are where you are, and if you can accept where you are and know that there's always something brighter that's on the horizon, you can look in that direction. And
Right.
maybe it doesn't feel easy, but it's possible.
It's
And if you
possible, and it's
if you
worthwhile.
ask new questions can help to unearth why you're stuck where you are. Just a question is, do I really like being sad and alone or depressed?
Yeah,
And if the answer is no, then what's an alternative? There might be a good question.
Yeah, it's important to remember too that when you're stuck, what you mean by the word stuck, what we all mean is that we're behaving the same way over and over again, hoping for a different result. And when you look at it that way, then you realize I need to change something about the way I'm doing stuff, whether it's about the way I'm thinking or actions that I'm taking or people I'm saying hello to or whatever. I need to take some sort of change, because otherwise I can just expect to have the same depressed experience over and over again. So it's also a challenge, It's a challenge to you to say, well, are you ready to change, or are you perfectly content to just stay in that depressed state that you're in?
And, I had a teacher that I loved his phrase all the time. He would say, all we are is changing.
Yes.
All we are is changing. And he talked about it from a scientific/molecular level, that our cells are never stagnant. Nothing in our body is stagnant. Everything is always in some kind of evolution. Cells die and new ones grow, and more cells die and new ones, become alive. It's like we're always changing. And I know that Abraham talks about, there have been plenty of people who come to an Abraham workshop and go, I'm stuck. And I said, stuck doesn't exist. And I'm like, huh. And it's because really all we are is changing. Now, we keep recreating the now. I mean, the now keeps happening, and every second there's a new now. And we get to choose, do we want to take the thoughts of the past and drag them into the now to let that be our now reality, or are we willing to choose a new now? Now, that was a really, really big topic for me when I really grasped that idea.
Oh, I think it's a big topic for anyone.
You what?
I think it's a big topic for anyone. Anyone who's been in any kind of negative place for any length of time, that is a big topic.
Yeah, but when you really start to understand that the past is only the past when you leave it there.
Yes.
And the present can be different. In every moment we choose something different than what was in the past.
As you're talking about that, I'm reminded of a story that Joel told one time. I think I may have told you, but I'm going to bring it up again because it fits this to a T. He had a client who was referred to him who had been through at least one or two other therapists. And Joel, of course, is also a psychotherapist. And the way he tells it to me, he tends to get, he's like the court of last resort. When every other technique they've tried doesn't work, they send them to him. And when he received this young woman into his office, he didn't realize at first what was going on, but within about 2 or 3 minutes, he saw the pattern happening pretty quickly, which was, as she talked about all the ways that she was depressed and all the things that was going wrong in her life, as the description was going on, every single time that she described an item, she prefaced it in some way to her ex-boyfriend who had left her 2 years ago. So that everything that was going wrong in her life was the fault of the boyfriend who had left 2 years ago. And after about, I think Joel said he counted 45 times before he decided to say something.
Wow. Boy, he's patient.
Well, actually, it was only about 5 or 10 minutes. It was pretty quick. But but after about 45 of them, he says to her, well, do you realize that everything you've said, you've been blaming your boyfriend about? And she got really mad, jumped up, and stormed out of the office.
Oh, great.
Now, this poor young lady obviously was very tortured and torturing herself, and somebody had basically uncovered her game and said, this is what you're doing to yourself, and she didn't like that at all, because now that made her responsible. She couldn't keep blaming the boyfriend anymore. Well...
And when you're having fun blaming the boyfriend, it really sucks when somebody points it out in a big way. Because now you know you're caught. You can't keep saying, well, it's his fault, his fault, especially if your therapist is going to go, I know your game.
Yeah, right, exactly. So anyway, when she walked out, Joel said, well, there goes that client. Not going to see her again. But to his surprise, he got a phone call from her the next day. And she calmed down considerably, as you might imagine, and said to him, I really didn't want to hear that. But after I left, I couldn't escape it. I realized what you were saying was true. What can I do about it? So they got together again and talked for a little bit. And before they even got very far, he said, look, everything you've told me has been that you've had a miserable time the last 2 years. It's been one bad thing after another. You're really needing having a good time. When was the last time you went out and had a good time? And she couldn't think of it. So he said, I want you to get in touch with friends who you haven't been in touch with lately, but people who you can go have a good time with and say, I want to try to break out of this pattern I've been in. Would you go out with me? It's a Friday night. Would you go out with me? Let's just paint the town and just have the best time you can possibly have. And so she agreed and left. And then he got a call from her the next morning. And she told him that she had had the best time in her life the previous night.
Wow.
So think about that transition. In a 2-day period, she went from 100% stuck, which as you pointed out really doesn't exist, and to furious that she'd been uncovered, to wonderfully happy. Can you imagine how much of a shock that must have been to her system to go through that in 2 days?
Do you know how happy her cells of her body must have been? Thank you for letting us feel the well-being that we knew was available within us.
Thank goodness. When was it going to happen? That's what we kept saying.
And for her, even though Joel didn't get to actually witness the metamorphosis or the moment that the epiphany hit her, but somewhere in the process, she must have realized, oh, I've been stuck on this, and I can make a change by not thinking or blaming him anymore and do something different.
And it's not like she just stopped cold turkey. I mean, it's not like the feelings didn't come back and she didn't ever have to deal with it again. She did, but she had the sessions with Joel so he could work her through it. And apparently she got through the whole process fairly quickly. So,
but she had a breakthrough moment.
She did.
Because what might have been called stuck by anybody else's standard is how she was stuck in, the hamster wheel of it's the boyfriend's fault, it's the boyfriend's fault, it's the boyfriend's fault. But by doing something different, it's like she gave evidence to all of her that I don't have to be that focused on this all the time, and there are other ways to focus. And I get different experiences when I focus on things other than it's his fault. When I just focus on, I'm going to do something fun just for me because that's what my therapist is suggesting.
Right.
Wow, fun was really had.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's also a bit of a reminder, too. It's amazing how powerful that ex-boyfriend was. I mean, he left her 2 years before, and he was still controlling her 2 years later. That's pretty powerful.
Well, and what that says to me is that's how powerful she was.
Yeah.
Because she was choosing to focus on him being more powerful or just blaming him. It's like it was all taking place inside of her.
In her head, yeah.
Because he wasn't physically doing anything.
No.
At least not from the story's perspective. He wasn't having to do anything for her to gift him with this great empowerment.
Oh, I'm 100% sure that's true.
All happening inside. It was all happening inside of her.
Absolutely. She hadn't even heard from him in 2 years. That much I do know. There was no contact at all during that 2-year period.
So, in the spirit of giving, to me, there would be nothing greater that I'd want to encourage people to gift themselves with than the gift of their own personal empowerment. Because we are the most powerful. We are so incredibly powerful, it's almost beyond our understanding in terms of how powerful we are.
Very
and
true.
Even if that doesn't make sense yet to somebody, just try that thought on for size. What would it feel like if I knew I was powerful beyond measure? That I could think a thought and things would show up.
Mm-hmm.
I could think a thought and I could feel fabulous.
Right.
Because that is how powerful we are. And the only reason we don't feel that way 24/7 is because we're thinking thoughts contradict. You can't feel like a victim and be a powerful person at the same time.
That's one of the things I love about law of attraction teaching, because when you really dive into it and study it and learn to apply it, you begin very, very soon, not immediately, but very soon, you begin to realize just how self-empowering it really is in ways that nothing that you'd ever run into before was able to teach you. At least that's the way it was for me. I think it's probably true for most people who discover it for the first time, because it's basically a way of ceasing the behavior of being a victim.
Yep.
And
now,
that's
I
the
used
best.
to be a control freak once upon a time. I'd say I'm less controlling today, and I don't require being in control nearly as much as I once did.
Good for you.
But when the idea of my reality, I didn't think that was possible because there were too many things that I felt were outside of my control. Now, here's, to me, what I'm going to say. This is a really big one that, for me, took me a while to unpack. But when I started to really understand that when I change how I think about any given subject to the point that it loses its negativity altogether, then people outside of me can do certain things that in the past would have produced a negative feeling in me. But now, because I took care of how I think about that subject, and it no longer bothers me, now other people can engage in that, and that doesn't bother me either. And that's when I realized the control is really inside my own head. It's not outside of me. Myself is knowing that I can control what's going on in my own head. And I took my attention off everybody else to take care of me and how I felt. And that's a pretty powerful place to be.
Oh, it's a very powerful place to be. And it is liberating. It is a liberating feeling. It feels like, for the first time, not all, but a number of the shackles that held me in place are gone. That's what it felt when I was first starting to get into that zone you're just talking about. It's an amazing feeling.
Well, and so, we're talking about the spirit of giving, and, that so encompasses the preconceived ideas of what Christmas means and what gift-giving means and what the season of giving is all about and what you should do, what you should eat, how you should shop, et cetera, et cetera. And to me, that's just all outside of ourselves, And I like to ask the questions like, okay, you should do this. Well, according to who? And what's the answer going to be? Well, that's what they say. Have you ever met they? I have never shook they's hand. I've never glimpsed it, not even in a virtual way. They haven't even sent me a Facebook viral video. But, they is very powerful.
They seem to be, as long as we give them the power they are.
Yeah, and so I took away the power from they. Because whenever there's a shoulda, coulda, would, well, they said, well, who is they? And until I meet they, I'm not giving them any power.
That's really good. As you were talking there, I realized that there is another factor that I use, particularly as a gift giver during the holiday season. I have it's something that I've done pretty much all my life, but it was only in the last, I guess, 15 years or so that I kind of codified it into words, because my wife asked me, we would have conversations about it, because she always gets frustrated at the gift giving season trying to figure out what somebody wants for Christmas. And I never messed around with that. For me, I wasn't ever trying to figure out what they want for Christmas. I was trying to come up with something that I think they might like, but they would never consider getting for themselves. In other words,
you're the person I love to get gifts from, because you really put a lot of thought into it. I like that.
Actually, believe it or not, I don't put tons of thought into it. What I do is kind of LOA-ish. I open myself up to a possibility that the other person may not have thought of. And to that extent, yeah, I'm putting thought into it. But really all I'm doing is opening myself up to getting signals. Give me a signal universe. Give me an idea about this person. Okay, I'm holding this person in my mind. What might this person like that I'm sure they'd never buy for themselves? But if they got it, they'd say, oh, wow, that's pretty good. And if I pose it that way, invariably I come up with an answer. I mean, I remember one year, and it was a year where there wasn't much money, right? So all the gifts had to be frugal purchases, and I'm trying to buy for my entire family. And of course, I had left it to the last bit, so it was like, I don't know, 3 days before Christmas or something like that. And I had to travel, a 12-hour trip to get there and all that. So I was up against the deadline. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. And this was before the internet had taken off, so I was shopping in a mall at a bookstore. And I actually, before I got there, I said, I wonder if there's any books that they might like. And I was kind of playing with it, any books that any of the family members might like. And I walk out to the bookstore, and you know how they have a display window and there are books in it? I looked in the display window, and there were 5 books there. No, I had 5 people to buy for that year. There were 5 books. And I looked at them, and I immediately said, Dad, Mom, PJ, Mark. I mean, it was just like they were all right there.
Right, I love it when that happens.
I mean, I couldn't believe it. I thought this was going to be, kind of a tough task to try to get all this shopping done, and I got it done in 5 minutes. And 4 of those was standing in line.
I was going to say, now that's total evidence of what it's like to follow the impulse. When
Yes.
you're open to receive from, the universe, and the universe just provides exactly what you're looking for, and you go boom, 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 done.
And the best part was they loved them. Every person who got a book that year loved them. They just thought they were great picks. And I could barely wait to tell them the story of how I found them.
That's so great. What I'm going to tell you is, to me, such a gift, and it doesn't have anything to do with Christmas, but it's on my mind, so I want to share it.
Okay.
So I have this wonderful Hispanic man, and I only say Hispanic because he speaks Spanish and I speak English, and we can't, communicate at all except for through sign language and, charades.
Sure.
But he's been cutting my lawn for about, I think going on 4 or 5 years now.
Ah.
And I live in Texas. So in Texas, my lawn needs to be cut at least 8 to 9 months out of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of this thing. I know he's going to come every week or every 2 weeks, depending on where we are in the growing season. And I'm always prepared with my money, cash money in an envelope, and I stick it under my floor mat. And so, when he's done, he comes and he grabs his money and goes. And I'm almost always home because I work from home. But anyway, so all of a sudden, I think it was somewhere in the first week of November or the last week of October, he cut the lawn, and I just kind of had a gut feeling like he's done. But because we don't actually talk to one another, it's always kind of like wait and see. So I prepared my envelope for 2 weeks later, just in case he came, because if I heard the sound of lawnmowers, I would run outside and stick it under the mat. Mm-hmm. And so 2 weeks later, he didn't come, and so I thought, okay, yeah, he really knows it's done. And, it started getting a little bit cooler here in Texas, and the grass started getting a little bit browner, so I thought, yeah, we're really done. So at least 6 weeks now has gone by. It could be even longer. Who knows? And all of a sudden today, I heard the sound of lawnmowers really close to my house. And I looked out the door, or looked out the window, and there he was with it's a 3-man crew, and he had the leaf blower, And because of the big trees that have now lost their leaves, really I don't have a lawn, I just have leaves.
Yeah.
And he was blowing all the leaves, but the other guy, I got to tell you, it felt like such a gift. And here's why. Because I noticed that, like, because we've gone through some cold spells, but then we've had some really warm days, and my grass started growing again.
Ah.
So I had this really uneven-looking lawn, and I had all these leaves, and I knew, well, if they would mow the lawn, they would mulch up all the leaves.
Right.
And so I just thought, you know what, I could call him, but I don't know what he does during the off-season. He may have another completely different kind of company during the off-season. I have no idea. And so I just kind of didn't. But every time I look at my backyard and I see this uneven lawn and I see all the leaves in the front of my house, I'm like, I really wish he'd come and cut my lawn. And so today, it felt like out of the blue that he just showed up, and I ran to my kitchen where I had my envelope. My envelope has been sitting with money in it and his name on it for probably the last 2 months. Just in case. Every time I look at it, I'm like, go put that away because he's not coming again until next spring. And yet I kept feeling just leave it there. Like it's not hurting anything, just leave the envelope there. And it was so fun. I ran out the front door. I got his attention, and I handed it to him, and I just said, gracias, because that's about it for my Spanish speaking. And he had this huge smile on his face, and I had a huge smile on my face. And it was kind of this moment of like our hearts met. I was showing him my deep appreciation for him showing up out of the blue. He's never done this in 5 years.
Wow.
And it was like, and he took the money from me with a heart of appreciation, thanking me that, like, I'm always ready to pay him for the services he renders.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in the house, and no matter where I walked around in my house, because I was on a conference call at the time, so I'm on my headset and I'm walking around, I'm seeing him and his crew cut my lawn, nurtured and cared for. But I not only felt it from him and his crew, I've been asking, just by my desire, you know, to have my yard cut one more time before it gets really, really cold.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, we had our first freeze, I think, 2 nights ago.
Oh, okay.
So I know it's about to start getting more into the cold.
Yeah.
And I thought, if it's really cold, that's not a good time to cut the lawn. But it's like my asking was out there. And the universe knew what I wanted. And I believe the universe conveyed to my crew, hey, go cut her lawn one more time. I mean, there's nobody else on my block that even gets their yard cut from these people. So it's not even like someone called and said, hey, come to our block.
Mm.
And it was, to me, that just felt like a gift. That was the word that came to mind the moment I saw him out there. I'm like, oh, what a gift. He's such a gift to me.
Actually, I heard 2 gifts there. I heard the gift that he gave to you, and I heard the gift that you gave to him because you were both smiling after the gift giving.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Which is really nice. That's the best kind of gift giving. And
Chance to see him in person. I just see him out my window. The fact that I got to hand it to him felt really good because we had a moment where, like you said, we looked at each other's faces. We got to see each other's smiles. And it's like I received his thank you, and he received my thank you. And it was a beautiful exchange. And to me, that's what gift giving is about.
It is. Because it really isn't about the item. It's about the interpersonal connection. That's what gift giving ultimately amounts to anyway. If gift giving gets down to being just the item, then I suppose it qualifies as a gift, but it's certainly not memorable, and it's certainly not fun. It almost makes you wonder why you do it.
Well, have you ever been in a position where you know somebody's coming over, and you know they've given you gifts in the past, and you start to think, what have they ever given me? What did they give me last year? And you can't remember? I mean, I've had that happen where I'm like, I have no idea. I've been with these same family members for years and years. I have no idea what most of them have given me because it didn't have great meaning, or the exchange was kind of rote. It's like it's what was expected. You're expected to exchange gifts, but doesn't have much meaning in it.
But believe it or not, I don't actually ask that question of myself. I get the question from my wife. Louise will ask me, "What did we give to so and so?" Like she'll also ask me, "What did we eat when we were on vacation at such and such a place?" Like I'm supposed to remember all this stuff when she's actually the one who actually remembers it. And she'll even tell me, if she's trying to remember something, she'll turn to me like I know the answer, and she'll start to ask the question, and then she'll remember the answer, and she'll always say it's because she was looking at me. Now, what am I doing? I'm just sitting there. I'm not doing anything at all. But somehow I cue this in her mind. Anyway, long way around to say, I don't really think about, what did I give last year? And I don't really think about what did they give me last year, because for me, it isn't the gift. It's the event of the giving. That's where it all happens. And I don't necessarily have to remember specifically what last year's event was like, because they all have the same feeling. They're all a good feeling. I don't really need to know that this one was slightly better than the one last year and slightly different. I don't really care about that. All I know is every time it feels good, and that's all I need to know.
Well, I do know I have one sister that every gift she's ever given, first of all, I consider her the best gift giver in the world.
Oh, okay.
Every gift she ever gives, it's because she has really thought about me. And even though, I got to say, she only lives about 30 minutes away from me, and this is almost or an hour away. It's kind of embarrassing to say, but sometimes we only see each other once a year.
Oh, sure.
Because her life with her kids is so incredibly busy. You kind of have it. You don't get it into her schedule often enough. But at Christmas, she's willing to make it happen. But when she gives a gift, it's always perfect, which blows my mind, because if we only talk, sporadically throughout the year and only see each other once a year, it's not like she has a whole lot of actual insight into what things about the heart of who I am and what would make me happy. And it just really blows my mind how she can just nail it every single time. And to me, her gift is gift giving.
Yes.
Her own personal gift, because she is so good at it. Very good at it.
I can see
so
that.
On the occasion I get a spark of, I think I know what I'd love to give this person, it really just turns me on, because that's not a natural gift for me. But I do know one year I was in a crocheting mood, and I had finished this big quilt or big crocheted blanket for myself, and I just wanted to keep going. And so I went, okay, if I keep crocheting, I'll have way too many Afghans in my house. And so I thought about who would appreciate one from me. And I have another sister who, she's always cold. And so I made it for her, and I found yarn that was the perfect something for her living room. And not only did she love her Afghan from me, but what's fun is every time I'm at her house and she curls up in her chair with the Afghan, she always puts a smile on my face, because she's reminding me, you gave this to me. You made it for me. You made it just for me. And that's, to know us, we have this silly little thing.
I don't call that silly. I think that's really, really nice. The fact that, again, it's a gift that kept on giving. So you're reminded every year of how good that feeling is. You lived the feeling over and over again. That's fantastic.
Yeah, every time. And this sister I do go see much more often, and so I'm at her house and I see her all curled up in the Afghan. Even in sometimes she's like, oh yeah, I'm a little cold, but I know you like it cold, so I leave the air conditioning that way, and she'll just curl up in her Afghan, and I'm like, wow, that was such an awesome gift that I gave her. Not because I'm patting myself on the back, but it was such a fun experience to give it to her. But I got to tell you, it took me a year to make it, and the whole time I was making it, I got to enjoy the feeling of, I'm going to give this to my sister, and I know she's going to love it. And so that was a gift that I got to experience for a year before I even gave it to her.
You mentioned the whole thing about not necessarily being in touch with somebody more than once a year. And it made me think that there's something else that I consider to be a tremendous gift. And it's a gift that was given to the public, really, by a company. And that company was Skype. Now, there are others that do similar things to Skype, but Skype has a tremendous gift, because they give you the ability to contact other people for free and interact with them with video, so you can actually see them, which is particularly poignant in my own case, because with my brother, my sister-in-law, my mother, my sister, and my niece. I have not been in the same room with any of them in 4 years. Thank God for Skype, because I still get to see them many times a year. Because I can see them through Skype, and we can talk, and we can interact, and it's like we're in the same place. It's the best gift that I can think of that a company has ever given me.
That is so cool. You know, and that makes me think of all of the free services that I partake in that are online that I don't even think about in terms of being grateful even, just simply, oh, yeah, I could get this free version, and, you know, I use it all the time, and it's free. But it is a gift. You know, even for all the negative things people can say about Facebook, lately I've been really, really appreciating it for the fact that it's connecting me to people that I wouldn't otherwise be connected with at this point in my life.
And think about what kind of...
Yeah, go ahead.
No, finish your thought, because I was going to take it in a slightly different direction.
I was going to say, I just asked somebody to be my Facebook friend the other day who I went to elementary through high school with. And I just happened to see him like on the right rail of Facebook saying, you might know this person. And I've seen it a couple times, and it keeps getting my attention. I thought, oh, he'll probably think this is stupid. Will he even remember me? So I went, what the heck? And I did. And he said, thank you. You know, I'm glad that we're now friends. And I said, because when I think of you as I went to my first girl-boy party down in the basement of your house. I think it was around the 5th grade.
Wow.
And he responded back and he said, oh, my God, I totally remember that party. And then about 4 other friends that we went to high school with said, that's so very cool, and they were liking it. And it's kind of like, what a wonderful gift to kind of pull 4 or 5 people together that haven't seen each other in decades, but it's like we all got to experience this wonderful moment of bondedness.
Absolutely.
And that's a gift.
Yeah. Oh, it's a huge gift. In fact, I was also thinking another way, Skype, going back to Skype for a second, Skype is a gigantic gift for immigrant families. The example that comes to my mind, my wife a number of years ago was working in a daycare, and one of her coworkers was from Egypt. And she told my wife that on the weekends, they would connect by Skype and just leave the connection on all day long. And then throughout their day, they just touch base periodically and talk a little bit about something, then go off and do something else and come back and touch base on something. It was like having them in the house at the same time, even though they were in Egypt and the other part of the family was here in the U.S.
Well, this sure has been my daily dose of happy. This just warms my heart. All of these stories are warming my heart.
I especially like the fact that we have taken a completely different approach to gift giving, because this is kind of this is not really the normal approach that topic takes, right? Normally there's, I'll call it a Judeo-Christian approach to it, that talks about when you should give and how you should give and how you should receive and blah, 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 blah. And we aren't doing that at all.
And you got to buy wrapping paper for those gifts.
This is true. This is very true. Yeah, Skype doesn't come with wrapping paper, does it? We'll have to figure. There's got to be a virtual wrapping paper you can put on your Skype.
There probably is. Somebody will create it.
Yes,
Listen to our show and come up with the solution to what virtual wrapping paper would be.
Well, we'll be seeing it soon. VW, virtual wrap.
I love it.
Go to VW.com. Anyway.
So, you know, another gift is that our listeners can share our podcast with their friends and family and love. Happy.
Absolutely. We want people to share, and we also want you to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, a lot more people are, because we can see the numbers increasing like crazy. But, you know, subscribe. Go to lowaytoday.net. You can do it on the iPhone in the iTunes store, or you can also do it on the podcast software. Just search on LOA Today. And same thing on a Google Android. You can do it there as well. Just subscribe to LOA Today and follow us day by day as we continue giving our gift to you. And Wendy, if they want to reach you,
we're going to keep coming back, aren't we?
Yeah, isn't that the best part? And in just a few moments, in a few minutes, or a few seconds rather, can you tell us how can people reach you if they need a little extra personal gift of talking to somebody who's an expert in this stuff?
Absolutely. Anybody who wants to reach me can find me at wendydillard.com. That's WENDYDILLARD.com.
Fantastic. Wendy, it's been a pleasure. Can't wait to do it again tomorrow.
Absolutely. I'll be here.
I'll be here too, and we hope you'll join us as well here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.